wishing I had a time machine when I went to internal medicine and I saw some guy was 400 pounds and I lost leg with diabetes. Like, I wish I knew you 50 years ago. We could have saved that leg. Or I could have told you about a good diet. All right? And then I saw a person who was in his fourth bar fight. Because he was always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because he had anger issues, he had learning issues, and he had never dealt with the anger. So he was getting into fight after fight after fight. And if I had him as a kid and tell him that your dad loves you and your mom loves you,
right?
You need to get beat.
I'm missing that one.
In Haiti, trying to figure out what's pneumonia, what's asthma. And I see this mom say there are American doctors in this town, and she brings this young baby. And I knew I couldn't do anything for her. And at that moment, I decided to do the best for my patients. Now that little speech is not to take away your pain.
No,
not to take away your pain, not to deny your stories, not to deny your stories. And Bloody Well isn't for the camera. We're being true.
Yeah.
I've dedicated my life to the best treatments to make sure that the kids who look like me have just as much chance as the people who look like you. Not to be racist, enjoy that in the mix.
That's okay.
I appreciate that.
But to have that
I
opportunity.
appreciate that.
And I'm working real hard, and I'm going to do real science, okay? And no, whatever I say can't explain what you're experiencing.
You know what? Can I just give this to you and you can take a look? This has got all the references
I'm
on
sorry to
it.
be pointing my finger at your face.
Oh, it's
I'm
okay.
from New York. That's how they start.
Just so you know, my husband is from
I
Africa.
apologize.
Just so you know, my husband's from Africa. He's from Liberia. Yeah, so.
And just so you know, I'm also from the Bronx, and my father's black and Puerto Rican. Just my mother's Irish and German, so I'm not exactly what I look like. You never know.
A lot of doctors like you had it in mind to do good for families and to do good for children and stuff like that. But unfortunately, the science that you're getting is
Can I just give this to you?
It's
one-sided.
It's industry funded is the
Yes.
problem. If you were looking at all the
Look on the
independent
outside.
studies, you may have a different opinion.
yes.
We just ask you to please look at the other side.
Everyone always thinks we got skin in the game. If you're if you're Apple, you're one of those Apple people. If you're a Samsung people, you're a Samsung people. And if Pfizer's funding the dinner, well, of course, Pfizer's gonna be trying to make some money because your answer to every question is money.
Well, I can actually answer that
But
too.
the
I used to work for
CDC
Pfizer Global Vaccines, so I can answer that question as well. I know where the money went.
But the people like the CDC, the people like the NIH, the people who spend their lives working on these things, the people who do the treatments for kids, my boss at the Bergdorf who spent all her ED shifts putting tubes in people's throat because they had H. epiglottitis, also tell the truth as well.
Well,
So I know you got your truth. I know you got your truth. Lord have mercy.
But wouldn't you
Yeah,
see
exactly.
wouldn't you see a conflict?
However,
If you learn that the CDC owned patents on vaccines, wouldn't you see that there would be a conflict between business and doing what's right when you own patents, which the CDC does?
Conflict of interest.
If you own patents on vaccines and you're pushing those vaccines on your patients without regards to whether they're good or bad or what they do, but you push them because hey, you're making money, could I accuse you of something, right? That's what the CDC is.
Okay. Oh my God! Here comes the
CDC is like
to
that.
win it with money.
We're not talking about you specifically. We're talking about the industry.
No, not you.
I know, but
the CDC owns patents and is making money and pushing
people who
vaccines.
spent their time at the CDC. I know the doctors who work at the CDC. It's not just this company that's out there to make money to hurt people.
No, of course not.
Okay, so
Of course not.
We agree.
We're not saying that.
We agree.
But institutionally,
Of course,
about
my
half
mouth is
its
dry.
budget comes from private industry. There's a CDC foundation, and integral to the CDC's work are people from pharma. But the bottom line for me, I'm the child of two physicians. The bottom line for me is informed consent. You have to give people a choice. Vaccines, we know, can cause death or severe harm. That's not debatable.
You agree with that, right?
That's
You
not
agree with that?
debatable. You might think it's one in a million.
Yeah.
It's not debatable. So there's got to be a choice. You've got to have informed consent. Prior, free, and informed consent. That's the Nuremberg Code.
It can't be informed consent if you're holding your child's education.
I know. You gotta tell them what you want to do. You gotta tell them what the benefits are, what the risks are, the risk of doing nothing, and
Then you're telling me
But
you can't go to school.
yeah, you can't say, but if you don't sign this consent and give your kid this, then they can't go to school.
After you say all that, if they say, okay, then I don't want it, I don't want to take that risk. do you
That
just-
should be it.
Then you don't allow them to go to school? How is that important?
Okay, all right. So, personal liberties versus my right to have a kid not get sick.
But there's
It's
no,
not my job,
Oh,
my kid's job to protect your kid's immunity.
and there's also no inalienable right to a germ-free existence. That's
Yeah.
not a thing. That's not in the Constitution.
Come in with PB&J, I'm gonna look at you sideways.
If I
And
show
say,
up,
what are you thinking?
no,
Don't
if
you know that
if my
mommy's
kid
allergic?
shows up with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now I would respect
ruining
the
my
fact,
example.
yeah, but no, but that's
I
the
know,
truth.
no.
But I would respect the fact that your child had tried to not send
Yeah,
food.
we
But
do
you're
that.
talking about food there. You're not talking about injecting kids with toxins.
Aluminum is a toxin, neurotoxin, right?
Mercury is a neurotoxin. There's no debating.
I know, and I get some of my sushi all the time.
Yeah, and
No, no,
You're
talk about
eating
neurotoxin.
it. No one's injecting you
doctor,
with
you
it.
know
You're
Injection
eating it.
versus inhalation versus exactly.
No one's injecting you with it. You're eating, and it's your choice.
And
You're
it's your
choosing to
choice.
eat the
You don't have to
sushi.
eat the sushi.
And how
Nobody's
do you
holding
answer-
your education
Just
over
one
your
last
head.
question for you. I was born in 1976. In my whole life, I've had a total of 12 vaccines. My children, who are now growing up, 13 and 8, 69 doses are recommended by the CDC. Why would they need so many when I'm alive, healthy, medication-free?
My husband only had to have
My
3
mother
to go to
had
school.
less than that.
Why do they need so many when we live in the same environment, eat the same foods?
And there are 200.
Since 1970.
I was born in 1976.
So since then, we've come up with the PCV vaccine, the pneumococcal vaccine, which has cut down the rates of ear infections, strep.
What? These vaccinated kids have ear infections every day of the week.
I never
Okay,
had an ear infection as a baby.
okay, I will, but I will also give you my 3,000 people of experience, and over the past couple of years, I've seen a steady decline in ear infections in my practice.
Do you kick kids out of the practice who aren't vaccinated?
No.
That's good.
Thank you.
Glad to hear.
Thank you. You're one of the few practices then.
Because you know what? As contentious as this stuff is, we're having a conversation.
Yes, we
Yes.
are. And I appreciate that.
We're not throwing anybody. Security is just sitting there as support. And we're not having a brawl.
But with the informed consent, if you're going through, because you mentioned ear infections, right? With the informed consent, if you're going
the way,
through the
we're not
informed
those people.
consent, and in order to do
We
the
don't need
informed
the cops.
consent, you have to give them.
Oh, you guys know we're here every day.
Right? What if, as a parent, I decide if one of the possible side effects lists an autoimmune disease, or it lists something more sinister, or something like that? If, as a parent, I decide, you know what, I don't care if my kid has a couple of immune diseases, shouldn't I have that right to make that decision? I'll take my chances with the ear infection.
Thank you, Mary.
That's a good argument in isolation, but the state, time and time again, has said, we have an interest in you not playing the odds.
They also said that
I
black
think-
people, they did. So,
We've all said nasty things about each other forever.
no, we had a
need to stop.
system that said that black people were dirty and diseased and forbid us from drinking from water fountains,
ma'am.
forbid us from sitting at the front of the bus.
You think I don't know that?
But this is what I'm saying.
You
So
think
just
I
because
don't
the
know
state
that?
says it
So
doesn't
that's the
mean
state.
anything to me.
She's bringing that up
I
because
was
she said this
trying.
thing.
I was gonna bring up seatbelts. I was gonna say my personal choice is, look, I'm gonna plead. We're all gonna drive home safe tonight. And that seatbelt, I'm gonna look at my phone. I'm not willing.
Saved lives more than they harm, but it's not. The science doesn't actually reflect that. The emerging science shows a very different picture. So that's the problem. If your premise was
Then we're
correct,
just gonna
then I would
disagree.
accept it.
Then we're
Then I would
just gonna
accept
have one
And
of
the last
those.
thing I'll say about the seatbelt
We're gonna
is
disagree.
that if the seatbelt wasn't working properly, we would recall it. We would say we need to do something to fix it.
And God forbid something happened,
Yeah.
you could sue them.
But
Yeah, but that's
Vaccines
what
are
she's
not.
saying.
Vaccines are not.
If the seatbelts were tested and it was shown that,
Vaccines are
let's
not
say you had two makers of seatbelts, right? Let's just say Klein and
Give it to
9 made seatbelts. If somebody tested Klein seatbelts and 9 seatbelts and it showed that more people died when using Klein seatbelts, then they would be like, hey, there's a problem. I want 9 seatbelts, you know?
So we don't ask the same
Doctor,
question
what does
about
that say here? 13.1.
Thank you very much.
What does it say? 13.1. You said vaccines are tested. I want to say what every single vaccine that you dispense has 13.1, it says the exact thing. They have not been tested. They have not been tested for whether they cause cancer or not. No vaccine has been
Or
tested.
mutagenic and
Yet the incidence of cancer is
Skyrocketing.
And mutagens.
Don't even
Yes.
have to prove themselves because in 1986 Congress removed all liability, so they don't even have an incentive.
I can't sue them.
I wonder, would you be willing to take on liability for any of your patients' children that you give vaccines? Like, would you sign a waiver saying that you will be liable for them in the event that any damage is caused to them? I'd feel more comfortable about the product if the doctors were willing to say, hey, if something happens, I'll be responsible for it. I still wouldn't do it.
or the state, since they're mandating it.
That's not in the system.
No, it's not.
The barrier system.
No,
Yeah, but
That's not liability.
reporting.
That's a reporting
That's a
system.
reporting system. That doesn't say if you give your child a shot and your child gets a seizure and your child doesn't recover and is an invalid for the rest of their life, that we're going to take on the full financial responsibility of caring for first your child, but then caring for you because now you can't work
And the rest
because
of
you
your
have
family.
to take care of said child.
Yep.
Nobody's taking that liability. But yet, how can you mandate somebody do a risk if you're not willing to take the responsibility of the liability that can happen?
So
if
would you
something
take
goes-
that liability as a doctor?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
I do that every day.
You don't. You don't
No,
sign
you just
papers
sign
telling
you
families.
sign a statement saying
Treat me
you'll
like
pay
a
for any
vaccine.
injury, any liability.
Syndrome, I can't sue you.
No, he doesn't. None of them do.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Head of the vaccine stepped in and they pay out
I know. All right, guys, I'm going to stop recording. My hand feels like it's going to